everybody, and welcome to this week's episode on Fit as a Fiddle. I have a celebrity doctor guest on the show with us today. His name is Dr. Reef Karim. He is a double board certified humanistic psychiatrist by day, and by night, he is a stage and screen actor. He does improv, stand-up comedy. He's a television host. He's acted in movies. He is an amazing person, an amazing dancer, and he has inspired people all over the world with his work and his wonderful creative speech and ability to look at somebody, figure out what's going on, and really change their lives. I've seen that on the different videos that he's been on over the years. Dr. Reef Karim is also the creator of the Mad Genius Business Incubator and Master the Madness. Both are self-exploration platforms, which he's going to talk a lot about. And for listeners today, just a little tidbit, he's been interviewed by Oprah, Larry King, Deepak Chopra, and Anderson Cooper. So it's just little Sneha Ghazi here interviewing this big guy over here. So we're really, really honored to have you on the show. And our guests definitely have our audience definitely has a treat today with our guest. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. And it's an honor to be here and to be interviewed by you.
Amazing. So I would love for the audience to get a little bit of knowledge on the work that you do and kind of what brought you into this space, because I'm sure that everybody has a little bit of a story on, especially a lot of doctors of going into med school and learning medicine in a certain way and then integrating it with their own life skills and then putting out all of their work in the world in a way that's unique. And I kind of see that that's what you've done over the years. So I'd love for the audience to hear about that. And also for me to hear about it, because this is our first time on screen together as well. So I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, I'd love to share this. But you're totally right. Everybody has a specific story that guides them. I believe we all have this inner knowing, this inner wisdom that guides us. But sometimes the world gets so stimulated and there's so much conformity and there's so much pressure out in the world that we get lost and we get directionless or we get confused or we start living our life for other people. And that definitely happened to me. And it's happened to a lot of people I know where you kind of feel something internally like, oh, I should be doing this, or God, I'd really love it if I could do that. And instead you find yourself in a career and you're like, well, how did I get here? Like where did this come from? Like it's fine. It's stable, but it's not really inspiring me. And I don't want anybody to live that way. And I lived that way for a long time. And my personal story is on, the immigrant side, being Indian and having super conservative Indian parents. And, that same old story. They on the day I was born, my dad made an announcement. He's like, everyone gather around. I've decided he will be a doctor, and it was like I wasn't even born yet. And it was just that same old story. But my parents were pretty hardcore. And when I told them I didn't want to be a doctor, they ended up having an intervention on me, forcing me into medical school, where everyone was like I wasn't doing drugs. It was like, we love you. We don't want you to go astray. It was like this whole thing. And everybody was telling me like their personal story about me. And it was really ridiculous. So I essentially lived my life for other people. I lived my life for my parents. And in a way, it's truly a sacrifice, but you're not sacrificing necessarily. You're sacrificing your originality. You're sacrificing your identity. You're sacrificing your spirit, your freedom of choice to please other people, or for impression management, or for stability, or for security, or for, in my case, it was pleasing my parents. Sometimes you're pleasing your boss. Sometimes you're pleasing your spouse, your community, your extended family. That there's usually something. So for me, deep inside, I've always been more of a performer and an entertainer and a provocateur. I like to help people become the best version of themselves by provoking and by entertaining. That's always been my thing. And then I find myself in, and don't get me wrong, I love the concept of medicine. And I love, neuroscience and human behavior. I especially love. But the practice of medicine is very different. And when you look at insurance companies, and you look at pharma companies, and you look at corporate influence and corporate manipulation and all of the regulatory and administrative, it's a hard road. And the other thing is you lose that creativity in that hard road. Like if you're a really creative person, or you want to kind of put your stamp on what you're doing, it's really hard to do that when you're mired in legal paperwork and regulatory paperwork. So I felt very stuck and trapped in this world that I didn't really love. And I've had these two ongoing callings or loves, and one of them is science and transformation, and the other one is entertainment and performance and creativity. And I'm like, God, if I could just learn to combine these two somehow. Like, they don't make any sense going together, but if there's a way that I could combine these two, I would be truly happy and I would find freedom. And other people, lots of people have this, but very few people do it. Very few people are willing to let go of that which is comfortable and familiar and stable and move toward something that is risky and kind of scary, but the payoff is amazing. And so that's what I did. And I just one day decided, everything that feeds my ego, everything that feeds my stability, being an academic at a big medical institution, a very high-powered one, having big job titles, and I was running my own treatment center in Beverly Hills, and that, I was on the news all the time, just talking in a good way as an expert. And it was keeping me stuck. So I said, okay, I'm letting go of all of it. I'm selling my center. I'm leaving academia. I'm all the things that were catering to me being stuck, I'm going to let go so I can find fluidity, freedom, and movement. And I did. And then I spent the pandemic, the whole first year of the pandemic. I was lucky that I sold my treatment center right before the pandemic. And then I spent the year of the pandemic just thinking, like, what can I do? What kind of product, what kind of invention can I bring to the world that I think will really help a lot of people and will serve a lot of people? And instead of being stuck in human potential, stuck in human pathology, I want to move people toward the utmost, the uber human potential within them. How can I do that? And so I built this brand called Mad Genius. I have a company called Madness Inc. And it's all about shifting that internal madness in us from stress and overwhelm and chaos into creativity, originality, and ingenuity. And that creativity and originality, that is the fuel for your purpose and your passion. For all these people that are like, God, I don't know what I really want to do in my life, or why don't I have passion? Like I'm good at stuff, but why is there no spark? Why is there no like real internal passion? So I decided I'm going to help people to do that. And I built a business incubator called the Mad Genius Business Incubator. I've got a program about reinvention called Master the Madness, which is coming up. I have a yearly summit called the Mad Genius Advantage. It's an interview series where I've had really smart people that are mad geniuses themselves come on and I interview them. I incorporate a lot of entertainment. What I do, we teach performance training to upgrade your ability to deliver your messaging. We have sections on courage, sections on creative disruption, on mental clarity, on building your awareness and connecting it all to IP so that you have true differentiation in your business by building intellectual property that's specific to you. So in a nutshell, that's it. I've had two different careers that I've integrated into one.
Yeah, I love, love, love everything about that, because I think that's really just the way the world needs to move towards. I think that it's really outdated to think of pathology and slapping diagnoses on people and slapping medications on people and, treatments where we're not really understanding the root cause of what are the things that are causing dysfunction and pathology in the first place. and of course, you're a psychiatrist, so you have that, mental health component in your academic life. All of your, studies and everything that you've done in your schooling has helped you understand that so well, the psychology of the human brain. But I think what's even more amazing is that you're combining the idea of movement and just, even if it's, you could call creativity really anything, right? It could be creativity of the mind, it could be creativity of spirit, it could be creativity of the body. And I think that combining those elements together, and looking at a person in a multidisciplinary way, for lack of a better word, I think is really the way we should be moving forward. And I love that your incubator and really everything through your coaching and mentorships addresses that, because that's the missing link. I really do think that the artistic side of things is really, it's either separated completely or it's just missed entirely. And I think that integration of those two worlds is really what can help catapult somebody into being the fullest version of themselves, which is, it sounds like it's exactly what you do in your work, right?
Yeah, I feel like just because you're successful on paper doesn't mean you're successful in life. And there are so many doctors and physical therapists and chiropractors and I'll just mention the health world first, but it extends far beyond the health world. But there's so many people that are doing something, but it's not original and it's not passionate and it's not sparked, it's not charged, and it's that whole thing like, I'm working because you have to work. My mom has so many expressions about this, like, all of the work expressions and why you do it. And I always disagree with her. I'm like, you can be happy doing your work. You can be fulfilled. You can be passionate. It can be very meaningful and purposeful doing the work that you're doing. And that's like alien language to my parents. Like they're just like, I don't get that. Like, you work so that you make money and you have a family, and you don't enjoy your work, and you don't, your work is just, you work for somebody and that's what you do. I'm like, no. And I think there's the rise of the entrepreneur, which is a part of this whole process. And but in addition to that, I would take it a step further and say, back in the day, the reason I came up and trademarked this whole Mad Genius brand is that back in the day, the Mad Genius was the, think of Back to the Future, think of Albert Einstein. It was usually this recluse who lived in a cluttered house, who their job was to challenge social norms, but they had to give up any sense of like a following to do it. They lived alone. They had some weird, strange connection to lightning, and they did their thing. But now, in this time of overstimulation and high competition, and it seems like it's such a crowded marketplace in whatever industry you're in, we all need to think like a mad genius. That concept of being highly creative, highly original, highly differentiated, highly new, be in a growth mindset, continually challenging the status quo of your industry, to be a pioneer and come up with new and exciting ways of moving the world forward. That's what it's all about. That's what a successful and meaningful life and calling is. And to me, I'm like, I am going to build the Mad Genius training ground. I am going to show people utilizing neuroscience, psychology, existentialism, creativity, performance training, and business strategy. I am going to build this training ground for the Mad Genius.
That's amazing. So off of that topic, when you just mentioned, you have to be, the new, you have to be innovative, you have to be creative, like you have to have this growth mindset. What about those people who are outside of that so far that they can't even see past, what is growth? Like, they can't even get out of their own heads. They can't stop self-sabotaging, and they can't really take that step forward. I think for a lot of people, it's like, you can take the horse to the pond, but you can't have, that whole saying. I think the hardest part that I think that a lot of people have in either entering the self-development industry or entering a growth mindset is to even put themselves in a place where they can be receptive of that information and get out of their own heads. And I mean, with all of your work, you've helped thousands of people around the world, help them get out of that and flip that switch. So what's your take on it?
Well, I think there's two things we're talking about here. We're talking about, you mentioned self-sabotage.
Mhm.
The entire first third of the Mad Genius Incubator is about, awareness and insight of self and developing mental clarity so that you move past and find solutions to escapism behavior and self-sabotage. We do entire inventories on self-sabotage and escapism and a number of other things to become the gatekeeper of your own mind. And that's one of my exercises that focuses on that. So yes, if you're going to be in a growth mindset, if you're going to truly look to be a pioneer in your industry, you've got to get rid of the residual anchors that are pulling you down. You've got to figure out what's holding you back, and sometimes it's just unprocessed emotions, unprocessed shame. You've built compensatory behaviors based on whatever it is that happened through childhood and into your adult life. You have cognitive distortions. You've got all sorts of things that you've picked up, negative emotional baggage that you've picked up along the way that need to be deconditioned, that need to be, you need to confront them. And that requires some support. It's not just something you're like, oh, today I think I'm going to confront my conditioning. Like, it doesn't just happen. You have to, and that's why I built this product for it. But it's something you really need to work through so that you don't continually self-sabotage every time a good opportunity comes your way, or every time you start to enter that growth mindset. It's like, I use the metaphor, it's like a skier that is new to skiing and they do the bunny slope and they're like, oh my God, I'm amazing. And then they go on like a blue run or a green run and they're skiing and they're doing really, really well, but they're going faster and they get freaked out because they're going faster and they make themselves fall. That's what it's like to self-sabotage. You can't handle something that's going well. And so you fall on purpose, and it's unconscious. It's not like, oh, I think I'm going to fall. It's something internal deep inside that's rooted in some level of self-sabotage. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing in regards to growth mindset is, so we have an ideas network is what I call it. Essentially, there's three different areas of neural networking in our brain when we're processing and nurturing an idea. We need to come up with an idea by, having the cognitive flexibility to connect the dots and the neuronal agility to be able to connect things that aren't normally connected, to come up with new ideas. So that's your default network. And then you have to prioritize all of these crazy ideas that come in. You've got this idea, that idea. Yeah, we all know that. Like, you might be in the shower, you might be driving, you might be at the gym, and you come up with this great idea. And you have so many of these ideas. Maybe you filter or edit them, or you're not even aware of some of your great ideas. But every one of us has ideas that come in. They need to be prioritized, or you lose them. Or they need to be prioritized, or you're overwhelmed by them. And so that's your salience network. And then you have another network for operationalizing and executing. These are three different networks. All three need to be active to bring an idea to life. If they're not active, then let's say you only have one. We know, you and I and your listeners know of somebody, maybe it's them themselves, who can think of amazing ideas but can't implement any of them and can't choose any of them. Or you know of somebody that can, you give them an amazing idea and they can build an entire company around it, and they can operationalize and execute, and they'll put teams together. They'll be amazing once they have the idea, but they can't think of a new idea to save their life. And that's because they're tied in and they're connected neuronally to one of these networks, but not all three. So when you're looking at growth mindset, you need to be able to either massage that neural network muscle in your own mind, or hire the right people to be able to complement what you're really good at and what your strength is.
Wow. That's a lot that you just unpacked. I'm thinking about it all and I'm trying to process all of that. Which
Sorry.
neural network is that one?
Came at you. I just came at it hard there.
No, that's such great information. And if you dissect it that way, I can see how that kind of applies to, just companies in general, where they hire certain teams to do a lot of the brainstorming and the creation and the creative directors. And then there are certain people who are like managing and kind of overseeing. And then there's people who are like in the, doing their shifts and kind of getting the work done. And I feel like that kind of goes back to what are your strengths in any setting. Like, I can tell you, like, mine, I'm like the type of person who from high school, I was the person in group projects. I would get the meeting together. I'd set up the call. I would put the PowerPoint together. I would color code everyone's name, assign them the slide. And then after everything was done, I would look at it and probably edit it and fix everyone's, and then submit it to the professor or the teacher. That's just how I always operated. And everyone expected me to do that. So I always continue to do that. Right. So it's funny because you can kind of see the differences in how your network and the way that you process information. Like, I know you're talking very specifically about ideation and creation, but really in all aspects of our life, I do the same thing, whether I'm in the kitchen or whether I'm, in a class, or whether I'm, wherever in my own business in my life. So it's interesting to note those patterns and become aware of them, because I think that's really the first step, right? And the work that you do and the exercises that you give people and the activities is, figuring out what their learning styles are and what their creation styles are and what their execution styles are. Is that really like the first step, or is there something before that?
Well, first it's foundation. You need to know the foundation of how your mind operates, how your unconscious is a gold mine of great ideas that are suppressed or repressed. And they're also, a dark place for a lot of shame and a lot of, so there's a lot of foundational work that we do. And then we go into awareness. And like you said, developing a lot of insight into us and our style. But I would just mention something based on like what you were sharing about yourself. To truly enter, let me rephrase that. We're fluid and we're evolving as we grow. So you've obviously done well in your life, and you're at a place where you have this podcast, you have this voice, you have all of your training, you have your business, you have your family life. You're doing well. That's great. If you want to continue to evolve your creativity and your ideation, you need to disrupt some of the inflexible aspects of how you might ideate and create. So if there's a certain way you've done things and you continue to do things that way, you now adhere to that level of programming, that level of conditioning, that level of ideation, that mechanism by which you put ideas together and you create things. I would say that that's great as a foundational starting point. But if you want to continue to build a growth mindset, and not just you, anybody, you need to destroy a bit. You need to disrupt. I have a pretty strong connection to Bali. My partner and I, we go to Bali quite a bit. And one year we got to know the royal family. It was super random, a long story, but it was really cool in Ubud. And we were hanging out with the prince, which sounds cool to say that. And we met we met the king, we met the whole family, and it was really great. And they're super nice and kind people. And we did an interview with the prince. And he was talking about his spiritual advisor. And it was funny because my girlfriend, he was constantly talking to her all the time. And it was like, da, 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 da. And they were just going back and forth and back and forth. And then with me, he would give me a little bit of time, but he said something that was very profound to me. We were talking about the difference between what the West can learn from Eastern philosophy and specifically, the Bali people, what we could learn from them. And he said, something his spiritual advisor told him was, destruction can sometimes be a good thing, especially if you were built on a faulty foundation. And it's like he just throws that at me, and then he just like disappears and walks into the horizon.
As a prince would.
Yes, as a prince would. And it doesn't look for my response, doesn't look for my reaction, nothing, just lays that on me. And I was thinking about it then. I was thinking about it on the plane ride home. I was thinking about it when I got back to LA. I was thinking about like a faulty foundation. Oh my God. And that was in addition to some other stuff, that was one of the reasons that I was like, I need to shift gears here. I need to change the way that I'm operating in the world. And I do need, when I say destroy, I don't mean like destroy your life and like, do seriously bad things. I mean, be willing to have the courage to make some changes that are not going to feel comfortable, at least at the onset of them. And getting back to ideation and creation, being willing to look at your mental agility in a slightly different way. And that requires courage, especially if you're already successful.
It's just really funny because it's turning into a little therapy session for me. But actually though, I'll tell you, Reef, this is something that's been on my mind, and my listeners know and my patients know too. Like, I do every single thing, my business, my podcast, my nonprofit work, everything. I kind of really do it on my own. And so my patients are always like, you just need to get somebody. They're like, they offer their like nieces and nephews in like college, like, if you can hire him for free for an internship to do something for you, because we know you're like busting your butt doing all these different things. And, for me, it's because I'm so conditioned and used to doing everything because of the, the age old type A behavior of I'm going to do it better, so I'm going to do it first. And it's so funny because very recently I've confronted that fact. And my husband's been saying this to me for years. He's like, I don't understand. You're just crazy. Like, nobody does that. But I'm like, I think I need to hire somebody in 2022. You know what? I think I'm going to do it. You know what? I'll just put it on my work list, because if it's on my work list, oh man, is it going to get done? Because my type A brain will like go crazy until I need to cross that thing off. But it's funny that you said that, because it's so totally true that in so many facets of so many people's lives, they gotta disrupt, destroy, whatever the word is, shake it up, shock your system, shock your brain from its usual natural patterns and habits and the ways of thinking and doing. And that's really the next step. And that's like, even from a very physical pathoanatomical standpoint, there's so much evidence that cells need to undergo certain stressors to like be able to evolve, or muscles need to go under certain pressures in order to get stronger in certain ways. And that's the same thing with our brains and the way that we, our patterns of behavior. It's got to shift to evolve and grow. So I'm totally on board with all of that. Did you have anything else to add to it?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, we live in this time of like the 8th place certificate or what the award or whatever that is, where we're just making sure everybody feels great, and I feel like we get stuck in this comfort familiarity zone where we want everyone to be comfortable, that we don't reach our capacity, our highest ability, our maximum potential, because we're too busy trying to be comfortable and familiar. And I feel that's become a societal thing, not just an individual thing.
So on that, because I think that kind of blends really nicely into the concept of unlocking human potential. I know we wanted to kind of talk about that today because it's extremely abstract, and I don't think there's just one way of approaching it or describing it. And in general, thematically, all of your work is really to do that. It's to help people become the best version of themselves. So when you try to break that down on an individual basis for people, whether you're coaching people one-on-one or in group settings of any kind, how do you kind of communicate to somebody what their potential is? What is their human potential, and how can they unlock it? Because for a lot of people, this is kind of like I have no idea what that even means. Like, for a lot of people, they might be thinking, well, this is just me. This is who I am. What's there to unlock? How do you approach that to somebody?
Funny. Yeah, your highest potential is you're going to work in a movie theater, and you're going to, I'm kidding. You can't say that. You can't say, here's your cap. Here's the threshold. Here's the highest capacity, because they don't know and you don't know. Right. The first step is to remove barriers. That's the first thing. And I would do that even before awareness. I would say, there's awareness of barriers. That would be like the first thing I would say. But it's about what is holding you back right now. Let's go into your past and let's relate your past to your present. Not to blame, but to get an understanding. I have an entire section of the incubator in my program of how you become you, and how do you develop the distortions or the whatever it is that's keeping you in this state of limitation. Let's focus on that. So the first thing is to have the awareness and then find the solutions to remove these barriers or minimize or diminish these barriers. So that's the first thing. Before we do anything in potential, like I said, I focus on moving people from human pathology to human potential. So the first thing, and this I guess is the psychiatrist in me, but I'm not practicing therapy or trauma work or any of that stuff. I'm coaching and advising. So first thing is the pathology section. Then it's all about exploration. So, exploration is a very underappreciated element of our human existence. It's people don't explore. They just kind of, okay, I'm doing what I'm doing in life. I'm reacting to my environment, whatever's happening around me. They don't take the time to really explore who they are, how they came to be, what really moves them and drives them, and what they're passionate about, what events from their life have happened such that they get really riled up, and their emotional triggers and emotional associations to things they could be doing in their life. I mean, I can't say the number of people I have an exercise that I've been doing. Started at the treatment center, and then I started doing it with one-on-one personal advising, and now I do it with groups, and we do it in the incubator. And it's an identity-based exercise, but it's very specific to the work that I do. And I can't tell you the number of times people are like, wait, so that thing happened to me, and then I guess I kind of compensated for feeling bad about that. And then I made this choice in life. And as a result, I made this decision that took me along this road, but I really wanted to be on that road. And whoa, like this wasn't random. This was like, I actually planned this out in my head. I can't believe that. And that epiphany is what that removal of barriers for state of limitation is about. It's about the epiphany of, oh my God, I actually did this. This was a choice, whether it was unconscious or conscious. It came from a place in my life. Okay, because we all have, I'm going to get on a rant for a second, but we all have ancestral history. We all have genetic predispositions. We have personality differences between us, but our environment is incredibly powerful, and we can go into all the epigenetic studies and all that other stuff. But our environment is incredibly powerful, and so if we have to respect the fact that our attachments and our environment and our rearing and all of that stuff have a profound influence on the decisions we make as adults. And if you're like, well, why am I not happy, or why am I not satisfied, or why am I not leading a meaningful life? Why am I not energized? Why am I not passionate? That's where you look. And so we always start there. Then we move into exploration. And from exploration, we move into all the creativity and the performance and the courage elements of being someone. Because to stand out in your own differentiated way requires a lot of courage in this time of conformity. And there are so many silent geniuses out there that don't know how to deliver their message. They don't know how to perform in delivering their message. And in this time right now in the world, with all of social media and YouTube and even podcasting that we're doing right now, if you don't know how to deliver your message, the competition is way too intense. So that's a big part of my training as well. And then, of course, creative exploration. Nobody seems to be able to describe what creativity is, but this entire concept of being able to solve problems old problems or new problems in a very kind of novel way to what you're used to, where normally, let's say there's 100 neurons. There's a ton more, but let's say there's 100 neurons for sake of simplicity, and normally neuron 1 connects to 8. And 2 connects to 15, and 3 connects to 20. And that's the way those neurons just always work. You were talking about ideation and how you ideate in a certain way, right? 1 to 9, 2 to 15, 3 to 20. Now, If we were able to expand your flexibility in your mind, where one didn't just connect to 9, one also connected to 98 or 47 or 22, and 2 didn't connect just to 15, but to 38 and 66 and whatever else. Now suddenly you're expanding that neural network, and you're suddenly, I can't tell you the power of creative vision, where you normally see one solution to a problem, and then you're able to expand the agility and the connectivity of your mind, and suddenly you're like, wait, there's another solution. Wait, I thought of it. And all of a sudden you're brainstorming and you're like, I now have 5 solutions to this problem that I thought only had one solution, because you were in this rigidity platform. And now you have a more expansive, visionary, guide to how to solve your problems. And that also includes novel ideas and novelty thinking, and there's so much. So I teach a lot of what I learned in the entertainment industry in this section of performance and creativity. I did a ton of work in improvisation, and I can't tell you the power from a neuroimaging perspective, a power from just a psychological perspective of improvisation on the brain. And so we do very specific improvisation techniques. There's a lot of techniques I learned in hosting, a lot of techniques I learned in movement through dance, that all of it, when you combine it, is so powerful in helping somebody to become an expanded version of themselves.
I'm signing up. How do I do it?
Okay, well, we can do the plug. Here's the plug, since we're going to say that to your audience anyway. So the business incubator is called the Mad Genius Incubator. It's madgeniusincubator.com. So you can just look it up there.
And it'll be linked in the show notes for everyone.
Perfect. And I do exploration calls with people. I don't just go, hey, okay, you're in because I really want to help you, or you're in because, like I need to know somebody's a good fit for the program. So I do an exploration call with people. I'm like, okay, what are you hoping to get out of this? Where are you at in your life right now? What is your current circumstances like? Like I need to know, in my journey of where I was, coming from a place of total conformity, even though I'm not at all a person of conformity, but that's how I was living my life, to being free. And I need to know where that person is on that spectrum. Are they deep, deep, deep in the mud of conformity? Are they slowly kind of coming out and going, huh? And are they in this like transitional phase? Are they really deeply connected to their creativity and they just need to add a few more pieces? So it's really important to me to know where they're at. So I have an exploration call that I do, and you go to madgeniustalk.com to do the exploration call.
That's perfect. All of that is going to be in the show notes for listeners. Reef, is there anything that you want to add today that we haven't? I want to keep talking to you for like a million years, but outside of that, to our audience today, very specifically, is there something that you want to add today that you haven't already discussed?
Yeah, I'd like to just say that, expression is a muscle. And if you're not actively expressing who you are as a person, and I don't mean expressing like your company's message or the slogan of the corporation you work for. I'm not talking about that expression. I'm talking about your authentic, original expression. If you're not actively expressing who you are on a regular basis, you won't have a who you are over time. It will erode. It will fade. You'll forget who you are. And it sounds so crazy, but it's not. You will suddenly become a byproduct of your environment, which is conformity and stimulation and stress and digital toxicity and so many other things. It will be subtle. It won't be this, I'm going to rant again. It won't be this like, oh my God, my life has changed. No, you won't notice it. It'll be very subtle, but all of a sudden you're just kind of living and existing instead of purposeful, passionate, exciting times. And, you start escaping a little more. You start watching TV a little more. You start overeating or emotional eating. Maybe you shop more than you normally would. You escape whenever you can because you're dissatisfied, because deep down inside, in your core, in your heart, you know you should be doing something different, or you know you should be doing something that's original to you, and you're not doing it. And your mind knows it and your body knows it. And they don't tell you every day, like, make it obvious. It's just really, really subtle. So the last thing I want to mention is, you and I are both dancers. I love to express myself through dance. I express myself through comedy. I express myself through writing, through journaling. I would tell every one of your listeners, please continue to massage the muscle of your expression.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time. Such a treat to have you on the show today. And for the audience, if any of this has inspired you, please, please, please check out the work in the show links below. I'm sure that everybody really in the world could benefit from this kind of explorative creativity and understanding of oneself more than anything. So thank you so much.
Yeah, our next incubator starts at the last week of January, if any of your listeners are interested.
Perfect. 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 Thank you.